You can get it. Marvelous.
Yo, what's good? Welcome back to the channel, y'all. And look. Today we got something shiesty for the streets. Look, I gotta keep it true with y'all, gang. A lot of people have been folding playing this Blackbeard guide. It's gotten so bad that everybody in the East OP10 that's in my server is clowning us for being too stupid to learn to really truly understand how to even play this whole entire deck. Fact, in my opinion, look, I know Blackbeard really does hurt ďauⱠⱠ, but I gotta make this free guide for the streets. I looked on the internet and I'm already seeing 200, 300 Meta 5 master classes for nationals for Blackbeard when they literally haven't accomplished anything with the deck but charging $200 to $300 on how to learn the deck. So instead of trying to learn the deck from some random that just picked up the deck, let's actually make a free Blackbeard guide from a top player, a top Japanese player from the East that already won 2 flagships in the East for OP09, that's shown up at some of the big Bandai events with Blackbeard. We're gonna make a guide right now, as you guys see on the screen right now. Before we start, look, this video is not going to be really that edited. This is really a informational type of video for our Blackbeard players. Yes, Blackbeard hurts BY, but I can't I can't let the delinquents looking like a fool out here in the streets. Fact, not an opinion. So let's go ahead and keep on going. OP09, it's Enigma Blackbeard guide, 2 flagships, 1 SB. Tell me what that is below, but it sounds important. 12 and L. So let's go ahead and continue. So this is the introduction, and this is exactly what this whole entire video is going to be. A lot of my videos, you have deck lists, a lot of boom and, you know, shabam type of things going on in the video, but this particular video is just going to be me reading this article and bringing this to the streets, because I refuse for any of the delinquents to be paying anything to learn how to play a one-piece top decks. And that, look, we'll get into masterclass and all that stuff at the end of the video, but let's go ahead and start. Introduction. Hi, it's Enigma on Twitter from Malaysia. So this is a Japanese player that already piloted this deck to success at the highest level possible. I previously wrote an article on ďauⱠⱠ after winning consecutive flagships with it, and I'm back again covering one of the more underrepresented decks in OP09 Blackbeard. I played Teach over the weekend and won 3. I won 3 consecutive tournaments, and many people express interest in the deck. So this article will cover Teacher's strengths, Teacher's weaknesses, matchups, and general game plan. The original Twitter post can be found below. So instead of us just looking at Snapchats right here, let's just actually go to the Twitter post. This was his OP09 deck list. You guys see right here, he's playing the 10 Teach, the Burgess right here, the Don Q. So if you guys do want to copy a flagship official tournament winning deck, this is it. Just pause the screen. Let's look at the right. Clean sweep weekend, first time playing Teach. He won against Lucci Shanks, Dofi, Shanks, Ploofy, Teach, Shanks, Bonnie. This guy is fucking everybody's bitch. Fact, I mean, this guy's just spinning the block right now. This is actually crazy. He says finally can put down BY and play something else. Took Miyagi 3 on list and Steam lined it. So BY dead in OP9. It's a whole bunch of random people talking about stuff that has nothing to do with the whole entire deck. And then he said, I paid for a masterclass, but and this is what I'm talking about right now. He did all of this, and this shit is still free. This shit is still free, and yet we have people in the States charging for a masterclass, and they have accomplished nothing with this deck. I mean, at this point, bro, just put in a job implication, because this guy just won all this shit and is literally making a free guide for everyone. And you got people in the States trying to milk y'all's like the herd cows you guys are, you know, that people that really do buy the masterclass. See, look, we don't do that shit. We find the loopholes and we just bring it to the street for free. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep on going. At the time of writing, the Japanese Miyagi 1v1 champions have also just concluded with 2 Teach decks making it the top 16, showcasing the deck's power. Even though it's not as popular as meta decks like Blue ďauⱠⱠ and Black Lucci, these will be the 2 most popular decks because they are very easy to pilot, especially in OP09. Blackbeard is the hardest deck in the game to play just because it lacks resources in order for this deck to truly work, which means in order to really make Blackbeard work, you got to be on some shiesty ass time. You need to know all your matchups. You need to know, which line to particularly take. You make one or two mistakes with this deck, you will be losing. And that's the reason why this deck is currently the hardest deck in the game right now. Once we get to OP10, this will be a little bit easier to play, and BY will be back to being the hardest deck in the game to play. So let's go to continue. The deck is extremely consistent due to running up to 12 1-Don searchers and has an extremely flexible late game that can play around different deck strategies. And that's crazy because I hear everybody say, oh, the deck's not consistent, we just brick and X, Y, and Z. Well, we have a top player right here that's literally fucking everybody's bitch in the East, telling you guys that this deck is extremely consistent. That's why I said don't listen to nobody in the streets for the TCG. They have no clue what they're talking about. Actually, no clue. Let's keep on going. Before we go into further detail on the deck, it is important to understand the 09 meta. Exactly. So if you guys do not know, usually when we go into OP09 or a brand new meta copy in the East, usually we have some type of ban list in effect that's different for us. This is the first time we actually had the same exact meta as OP09, card for card. Nothing is different, so we could actually reflect off of what they've been through and really transition that to our particular meta as well, so you guys can start spinning the block. Blackbeard's position in OP09 meta teaches a slow control deck that aims to restrict your opponent's lines of play via leader effect and early game removal, while setting up irremovable big late game attacks like Jesus, Burgess, and closing out the game by playing multiple 10-cost teach. So the whole idea of Blackbeard is pretty much bringing out the Burgess, filling up your trash so it can get to like 9 or 10,000 power and start spamming the teach, the 10-cost teach. This is literally a, let's say, a Charlotte Linlin Katakuri deck. Pretty much that's what it is. It's 2.0. It's pretty much a Charlotte Linlin 10-drop Charlotte Linlin 2.0. That's pretty much what this whole entire deck is. You really want to make it to in-game, and while in the process to make it to in-game, have some board removal with Don Q, has the searchers with the whole entire deck, and also really just having that Burgess on the field, since it's really hard to remove since it does have a blanket KO protection. The key win condition in the deck is 10-cost teach, as playing a back-to-back teach allows you to stun your opponent's big characters while swinging 12k. This makes the leader great against other decks like Anel and Lucci that play one big character a turn but struggles against decks that flood the board quickly. Okay, let's keep on going. In 09, the most represented decks are Blue Doflamingo, Black Lucci, Purple Luffy, Red Shanks, Green Body, and BY Luffy. It's extremely diverse meta with Blue Doflamingo at the top. It's also an extremely fast meta due to the aggro decks like Blue Doflamingo and Purple Luffy, while every other deck is a control deck with a gimmick to slow down Blue Doflamingo's aggression, such as Blackbeard and Bonnie. Bonnie's big thing is control, bringing out the 8-cost kid, slowing them down, and then other two decks with Shanks, you can run like 4 or 5 different builds. What's it called? Ploofy. It can just rush the board, try to rush the board with big bodies. Blue Doflamingo struggles with that. So yeah, that's pretty much the meta in a nutshell. Teach is a slow deck, and on first impression is heavily unfavored into an aggro meta. But if you think about it, your matchups meta in reality, it's about, and this is what I'm gonna tell you right now, these are the actual matchups. Okay, because I saw the sim shit don't even make no sense compared to this. Let's go and take a look. So these are the actual matchup spread. Versus Blue Doflamingo, 40 to 60 unfavored. Okay, that's fair. Versus Black Lucci, 70 to 30% favored, so you're favored to Black Lucci. Purple Luffy, 50-50. Okay, Red Shank, 60-40, you're favored in this matchup. Green Body, 60-40 favored in this matchup. And we're just not going to talk about Black Luffy. I mean, overwhelmingly favored. So yeah, we're just not going to talk about that because that is my main deck. Let's go. Look, let's keep on going. In my opinion, the leader is favored against everything in the meta except for Blue Doflamingo, which is crazy because the sim is telling you something different. I feel like people in the streets just be lying to you. I really do feel like people in the streets in the East be lying to you about what's favored, what's not favored, because over here, supposedly Blackbeard's unfavored into everything. But when you're looking at top East players, they're telling you the only thing that's not favored for Blackbeard is Blue Doflamingo. That is why y'all gotta tap into the channel, gang. I'm trying to tell you, I initially was hesitant to play Teach because the Blue Doflamingo matchup was so hard, but once you figure out how to play, it's actually an incredibly winnable matchup. And if you could beat Doflamingo with this deck, you won't have to worry about any other matchup. This man is shiesty as hell for even saying that. I've been telling everybody that this is the best deck in the game, and you know, clearly I feel like look, I can't even talk. I guess there just wasn't a shiest ass guide on the streets to help you guys. And look, this is what this is for. Burgess, this is your main boss monster of your deck. 4 cost, 5,000 power. This character cannot be KO'd by your opponent's effect. If your leader has Blackbeard Pirates type, this character gains 1,000 power for every 4 cards in your trash. So the whole gist of this deck is fill up your trash, try to get this to 8,000-9,000 power. It can't be removed. Only way to remove this is bottom deck, he bounce to hand or trash. And not a lot of decks can do all that. A lot of the game is revolving around KOs. So, and this is the reason why BY Luffy and Lucci kind of struggled to this deck, because once you turn off the KO ability, you're pretty much playing against the deck with vanillas. One of the main boss monsters of this deck right here. Let's keep on going. So deck list and game plan. The game plan of the deck is to remove your opponent's early game characters to restrict the number of attacks your opponent has, as once you hit late game 10 cost Teach can perma-lock your opponent's high cost characters. So our early game focus is to control the board. Our deck can basically be broken down into 4 types of cards. So we're gonna have a breakdown of how this deck even works right now. Cost reduction, 5 cost Agar and 4 cost Laboon. KO cards, Doc Q, Jack, Shigen, I think I said that, I think that's Finger Pistol and Black Hole. Attackers, Jesus Burgess, 10 Teach. Consistency cards, 1 cost Lafit Searcher, 1 cost Hachi Norso Stage, I think that's just Stage, and then 1 cost Search Event. So that's pretty much a breakdown of how this deck works. It's broken down into 4 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause this so you guys just have a really good understanding of this. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep on reading here. There's a lot to explain, but the first thing you need to understand Teach is a setup deck. You are not aiming to drop 10 cost Teach as fast as possible. Imagine you are playing against a Blue Doflamingo who has 2 characters on board. If you have an empty board and drop 10 cost Teach here, you will go -2 cards in hand playing a 10 cost Teach and using leader ability. Even if you drop 10 cost Teach and stun 1 character, your Teach will only be able to block 1 attack, and you will have to guard against another leader swing while they continue to play 2 more bodies on their turn. This is why Teach struggles against going wide, as 10 cost Teach cannot outpace multiple attackers. Let's go ahead and scroll up a little bit. Instead, your game plan is to set up the board with multiple Augurs, Doc Qs, Lafettes, etc. These cards are able to KO your opponent's board or generate additional card draw each turn, forcing your opponent to instead swing at them instead of your life, slowing down the game. Like I said earlier, this is a heavy control type of deck. If you guys have been struggling, look, really look, you guys are gonna have to watch this video a couple times, because I'm learning stuff about this deck and I don't even play this deck. So these cards can replace themselves in hand, which means every time your opponent swings a rested Doc Q that has already done its job, you are going +1. If your opponent ignores Doc Q, then you get to even more value using its ability every turn and can set up an even more advantageous board. You could imagine that if your Augur Doc Q combo lives a turn, even if your opponent builds a white board, you could use Augur and Doc Q to KO 1 character and Teach to stun another character, putting you in an advantageous position. The goal of the Teach deck is to patiently set up board state that you can play 10 cost Teach, and as 10 cost Teach will then be able to block for your rested characters, guaranteeing their safety. So pretty much the way this deck works in a nutshell is bring out your low cost characters, remove the board with Don Q, Augur, and pretty much is to really try to save these 2 on board. If you can really save these 2, especially if you keep Lafette, the Searcher, on board, you're going to be plussing every single turn. And I'm going to tell you one more thing before we continue. If you guys master this deck right now, OP09, look, everybody is going to be rewarded in OP10 because you guys are getting more tools to your disposal in OP10. So let's go ahead and keep on going. Understanding this, the basic curve is something like going first, 1 Dom play Searcher, 3 Dom play Doc Q to set up, 5 Don play Augur and use Augur Doc Q to KO a 4 cost, 7 Don Jack, use Jack and Augur to KO a 6 cost, 9 Don play Jesus Pistol, 10 Don onwards, chain, 10 cost, teach. So this is pretty much what you do going first, and going second, 2 Don play ďauⱠⱠ Searcher, 4 Don play Sharingan and Jesus, 6 Don play Augur and use Augur ďauⱠⱠ to KO a 4 cost, 8 Don play Jack, 10 Don onwards, chain, 10 cost, teach. So each turn, so whether you'll be going first or second, this is what you do ideally when you play on each of the curves, whether you're going the odd curve or even curve. At first, you may think that looking at the curve, you may think it's inconsistent, as you need to see a perfect hand in order to set up ďauⱠⱠ, Augur, Jack, 10 cost teach every game. However, the second strength of this deck is its flexibility, because this deck runs multiple cost reducers, KO and attacker cards that have the same function. Just drawing any combination achieves the same thing. Augur can be replaced with a boon, or if you cannot draw either of those 8 cards, I could play any of the 7 copies of Sharingan Black Hole, giving me 15 copies of turn 3 removal, which is shiesty as hell. If I don't draw ďauⱠⱠ, I can fall back on the 7 copies of Sharingan Black Hole on 5 Dawn and buy myself more turns to see ďauⱠⱠ at a later turn. If I don't have a Jack, I can still pair Augur and Sharingan to KO a 8 cost and use the remaining Don to play ĺεφ or Jesus. But if I don't have Jesus Jack, it's still an 8k beater that can KO cards, and Augur is a 6k. Yeah, that's the thing too. Instead of Jack just always removing stuff on the field just with his blanket cracked ass ability, it is just a regular, you know, 8k beat stick as well. Same with Augur, which is a 6k. Attach 1 Don, now you're attacking at 7. Taking 2 cards for the opponent's hand. This is the Jack. You guys already know what Jack does. You know, the main gist of this deck is that it's really hard to remove, just because it increases its character cost by 4, making it at 11 cost character, highest in the game. And then on top of that, it has this activate main, just being able to KO anything with 3 costs. So that's very shite in my personal opinion. Let's keep on going. Because I play 9 1-cost searchers, just seeing ĺεφ or stage on turn 1 will allow me to see 12 cards from my deck by turn 2, and you KO cards and cost reducers like Black Hole and Augur are all searchable. I'm also playing the Malaysian Bartholomew engine. I'm not sure if I said that right. I'm just calling it Barth or Bart. I'm just calling it Bart. While Malaysian is a bit counterintuitive to Jesus, Malaysian basically achieves the same function as ĺεφ, except in this case, you could grab back Laboon, Augur, Jesus, and Bart. You could also loop Bart blocker with Malaysian against decks that play big rush characters like Shanks on the 10 Don turn. If you cannot safely drop 10 cost teach, you could instead go Malaysian to grab back a Laboon and play Laboon ďauⱠⱠ, or Malaysian to grab back Jesus to set up for later turns and use the remaining 4 Dawn removal cards to control the board. The possibilities are endless. I'm so glad we have this free guide. Really am. The deck is incredibly consistent, but the challenge piloting this deck is being able to determine the best play in an awkward position. If you don't have the specific card needed in this scenario, what is your best backup play, and pretty much what are your lines? You need to know every single lines, and that goes with play testing, as your leader will in some matchups even start using its ability from turn 2 onwards. You will basically only be playing with 4 to 5 cards in your hand the entire game. How will you determine which card to discard now, which card to keep for following turns? If I rest my characters to use its ability this turn and my opponent swings, will I need this character for the following turns? If you continuously use leader ability, will you have enough shield in your hand to guard you from important characters when your opponent swings them? When do I use leader ability? This is where the more knowledge of your opponent's deck you have, the better a teach player you will be. So let's talk about the matchup. So look, this is pretty much a gist of how you play this whole entire deck. All I'm gonna tell you is that you're probably gonna have to watch this video a couple times, because like I said, this is the hardest deck in the game right now. So if you guys do want a better understanding, your lines, you know, what you're supposed to do on turn 1 or turn 3 or turn 8, you're really just gonna have to rewatch this video a couple times and really just play. That's the biggest thing. A lot of people paying for all this shit, Masterclass. The real gist of really learning how to play the game or really master a deck is play the damn deck. You need at least 1,000 hours in this deck to be fucking everybody's bitch. Okay, I see a lot of people saying, well, I played this deck for 10 hours and I'm not good. You're not gonna be good with this deck after 10 hours, gang. You really truly don't even master deck until after you play this deck for at least 2 weeks to a month, depending on how many hours you put in. My personal experience, probably at least 500 hours into this deck, and then you'll probably master it at that point. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the matchups versus Blue Doflamingo. Go first. This matchup is basically a mountain to climb. You need to play it perfectly to even have a chance to beat Blue Doflamingo. The key cards in this matchup are ďauⱠ and Augur and the Fat Man Sherry. You will rarely have a chance to chain 10 cost Teach, as you will be too busy dealing with the board. Ideally, you want to set up ďauⱠ on turn 2 and only use his ability with Augur on turn 3 to get rid of Doflamingo's 4 drops. Focus on swinging characters first rather than the leader, and you will slowly run them out of resources before 10 cost Teach comes down. In this matchup, if they played a Piranha Buggy turn 1, you want to use leader ability immediately the turn after. If even one Jinbei comes down and activates ability, you won't be able to keep up and will lose. I have leader ability on my second turn going first and turn 1 going second. There will of course be more variance in real games, but I'll use the following curve as an example on how to play against Doflamingo. Teach 1 Don, play Lafette. Dofi Don 2, play 1 cost Piranha. Teach 3 Don Lafette ability, play ďauⱠ, use leader ability, remaining 4 cards in hand. Dofi 4 Don Piranha, swings Lafette. Dofi swings life leader ability, calls a 4 cost Teach, remaining 4 life, 5 cards in hand. Teach 5 Don leader, swing Piranha, play. I'm gonna be real with y'all. This has to be the most in-depth guide I've ever read for any deck in my life, whether it will be Yu-Gi-Oh or One Piece. This is crazy. I have never seen something this highly detailed on what exactly each person's going to. This is insane. If you guys ever need a masterclass or guide, this is it. I have never seen something this well broken down into matchups. If he's doing this to every single matchup, we're gonna be here for a while. Teach 5 Don leader, swing Piranha, play 5 cost Augur, KO 4 cost leader ability, remaining 4 life, 4 cards in hand. Dofi 6 Don leader, ďauⱠ, play at 4 cost. Teach 7 Don, play Jack Augur, KO 4 cost leader ability, remaining 4 cards in hand. Dofi 8 Don, Dofi has to choose between playing 2 4 cost characters or attaching Don and swinging our characters, but only playing 1 4 cost unless they blind leader effect the top deck. Teach 9 Don, any combination of 5 Augur, 4 cost removal, because this deck's keys cards are all 4 to 5 costs. You can play any combination of Jesus removal, cost reducer, Jesus, etc. on turn 5 as well. You need to see how you can remain healthy as Teach against Doflamingo, as they need to continuously address your board, but you have to bear in mind that you're consistently playing with 4 cards in hand. Any character that you rest has a high chance of getting cleared, so you have to play ahead and balance taking the life to maintain hand. As your leader ability every turn, the cards in your hand will always remain at a fixed amount, so any card that you use is basically a -1 to your hand for the entire game. Cards like 7 cost Gravity Blade and 6 cost Red Rock also make this matchup a lot harder. And the main reason why, because these 2 cards are the best removal cards in the game. Fact, not an opinion. Let's go over Plouffe. Oh my god, he's going to do this with every single deck. This guy is a Chad. He's definitely a Chad. Versus Plouffe, similar to Blue Doflamingo, go first. The cover is basically the same with Blue Doflamingo, but we want to see Laboon instead of Augur, and we will only start using leader ability before the turn. Purple Luffy can drop 7 cost Luffy Toro and use leader ability every turn. Onwards to stop cards like Luffy Toro, 5 Queen and 9 cost Rush. If we go first and see ďauⱠ turn 2 in Laboon, turn 3 we can safely remove any 5 drop the Luffy player will play on turn 2, and if they cannot remove the boom, we can play Augur or Shinigami to KO the 7 cost Luffy Toro on turn 3, which is very shiesty. Let's screw up a little bit. Even though Plouffe is an aggro deck, as all of the big cost characters have a on play effect, we are actually favorite into them. If Plouffe goes tall by playing big carries, it is better not to spend too many resources trying to remove 7 cost and 9 cost bodies, as this deck does not play Ice Age. Facts, this deck does not play Ice Age. You guys need to exploit that. Instead, using 10 cost Teach to stun high cost characters, remove 5 cost and below characters with Laboon and Shinigami. Now against Shanks. Oh my god, this is amazing. This is amazing. He literally has a breakdown for every single deck. And y'all are about to pay $400 for this. This is crazy. This shit is free. Versus Shanks, I prefer going first. The reason for going first is that you get the extra Don to swing Shanks 6k every turn, and you can delay the amount of big characters they play. If Shanks goes first and drops 5 cost Yasopp into 7 cost Blackbeard into 8 cost Riley, you will have to spend a lot of resources removing the board. Going first allows you to have an extra turn to set up. The trade-off is that Shanks can play their 10 cost Rush Shanks first, So our win con in this matchup is to set up one Jesus in the mid game as a late game attacker and match every 10 cost Shanks with a 10 cost blocker, which actually sounds really smart in my personal opinion. I will use leader ability before Shanks 7 down turn to avoid bin backman trashing my characters. In this matchup, the biggest tip is to be mindful of your life and don't be afraid of taking life. In the late game, your opponent will be able to easily clear your Augur or Jesus with 10 cost Shanks Rust. A common scenario in your opponent's plays 10 cost Rush Shanks. You play 10 cost Blackbeard to nullify Shanks and then swing with leader and Jesus. Next turn, your opponent can play another 10 cost Rush Shanks and swing your Jesus with Shanks. Because Shanks will reduce your 10 cost teach, let's go ahead and scroll up a little bit. Because Shanks will reduce your 10 cost teach power to 11k, you will need to block 10 cost Shanks attack with 10 cost teach and 2k from hand, and you will need another 1k guard against Shanks leader swing. You will need a sufficient amount of cards in your hand to be able to continuously guard and trade to protect your characters, as if you let your characters die, you won't have enough firepower left to close out the game. So don't be afraid to take life early to make sure you have enough counter for late game, as long as you don't play into 10 cost Goldie Roger. If I could go to 1 life to maximize the amount of resources I have before I start playing 10 cost Blackbeard, that's the ideal scenario. So that's how you play against Shanks. Oh my gosh, does he have something for every single deck? Okay, so really only has 2 more matchup guides. One was for Lucci. That was just for Shanks, right? Let me see. That was just for Shanks. So these last 2 are literally for Lucci and BY. I'm gonna be real with you, as a Blackbeard player, you're really favored into these 2 matches because both these matches revolve around on plays, and for BY Luffy's case, you pretty much just almost auto lose. We're literally it's 20% chance you're supposed to win this as a BY Luffy player. So let's go straight to Lucci. Versus Lucci, go first, use leader ability before the 8 Don Moria turn onwards. Or if you have a board of multiple effects ﷺ that you don't want cleared by one single Lucci. This is one of BB's best matchups, hard carried by Jesus Burgess. There's not much to say except play 2 Jesus and late game just chain Blackbeards while swinging with Jesus, as it cannot be removed. Some key things to be aware of. So these are the key things you just need to take note of while playing against Lucci. Number 1, Lucci only has 2 cards that can remove Jesus, 9 cost Kato and 6 cost Brook, and these are literally just particularly texts. A lot of people aren't even playing them, and if they are playing them, they're usually playing 1 or 2, so the chances of getting them is literally like a 1 out of 50 or 2 out of 50, so you still have a good chance even if they are running those. Number 2, after leader ability, there are only 3 cards in most Lucci decks that can KO 10 cost Teach, which are a combination of Ice Age Tempest Kids, 3 cost Brook, Ice Age Tempest Kids Jack, Tempest Kick Jack, or Tempest Kick Kaido. So that's the only way to remove it. Pretty much what you have 10 cost Teach on board, he's spinning the block. It's very hard for Lucci to get rid of it, especially just taking away all of the on play abilities. If you swing with Jesus, your opponent will almost always put Dawn and swing the Jesus back, so be careful when you swing as you want. Jesus staying on board as long as possible in combination with point 2. If you play 10 cost Teach and your opponent does not have Jack on board, then you know that any combination they need to clear, Teach will not leave them enough Dawn to swing into Jesus. This is where game knowledge comes into play, knowing what your opponent's lines of play are, and if you can sneak in a Jesus attack. Like I said, it all goes in to playtest. Do not buy any masterclass. Stop being fucking lazy and take your lazy ass to the sim. Learn how to play the deck. And there's no guide. This guy's not even gonna make you a perfect Blackbeard. You know what's gonna make you a perfect Blackbeard player at OP09? And stop being fucking lazy and put in the works. Don't be a pussy. We aren't pussy. Delinquents aren't pussies. So don't be a pussy. Learn how to play the game in this deck by just playing. Okay, there's nothing that's going to speed up the learning. No, it's just play the damn deck. The matchup is incredibly favored just because your board is uninteractable, and that's why I told you, if you turn off the KO ability for black, they pretty much just look at you with a whole bunch of analysis. Now we should just skip this part since this is my main deck. I really don't want to read this, but let's just go into it because, like I said, I ain't going. I can't be fair. I can't play favoritism. BY is my favorite deck, my best deck, my only deck. But let's just go into it. So versus BY Luffy, go first. The reason to go first is to have an additional turn to set up. The key card you need to remove in this matchup is 5 cost, 8 cost Luffy. You're a pussy for letting everybody know our secrets. Thank you so much. As is the only card in the BY deck that allows them to take life without an on-play ability. As such, if you go first, you'll have more flexibility in the removal options in double Augur plus Laboon, Augur plus Jack, Whereas if you go second and want to remove Luffy immediately after the turn they play it on 6th Dawn, you have to see Shinigami or Laboon on 4 Dawn. It's incredibly favored if you start using leader ability on the turns before they start their engine. Facts, usually when they use the leader ability on us, we pretty much just sit there and just start throwing pillows at them. The win con is to slow the game down, removing 8 chaos. Luffy set up Jesus 10 cost Blackbeard while activating leader ability from turn 4 onwards to prevent them from using leader ability / Moria, and then in 1 turn kill them. Don't touch their life early, as if you ever leave them at 2 life, they could easily play 8k Luffy and start manipulating their own life from there. Take your time setting up your big board, as Luffy will never be able to reliably start their engine. As a BY Luffy player, this is completely 100% correct. Our win con out of his deck is really 8 cost Luffy, because that's what could really take over our life. They're not going to really attack our life, and everything that he just said is true. I played against a couple Shiesty Blackbeard players, and this is probably the most accurate breakdown of how to play against our decks. So very crazy. Thank you for reading this far. It's a long article. So this is the article for how to play Blackbeard from a 2-time flagship winner, 1 SB winner. If you guys want to actually go to his screen or go to his channel, is this is it. This is a Japanese player. Let's go ahead and look at it. Let's see. So here's everything he does, coaching, whatever the case may be. But yeah, this is him right here. Pretty much an East player, and it looks like he's sitting here for poke. Oh no, it's just a repost. So yeah, this is Enigma, very shiesty. Yeah, and that's pretty much how you play Blackbeard, by somebody that actually already played it. Okay, Nats is coming up. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you guys haven't decided what deck to play and you don't got time to play test, this is the last deck you should be picking up. But if you got some big balls and you just say fuck it, go ahead. Okay, go ahead. Balls deep, go balls deep into this deck for the next 2 or 3 days, and you might do something. I don't know. The biggest thing about this deck is knowledge, knowing your lines against every single deck, knowing matchups. If you already know your matchups and you know what every other deck does, and all you need to do is just practice this deck, you better be sweating for the next 2 or 3 days. Nationals is in 2 days. So yeah, this is pretty much a masterclass guide, how to play, deck list, all that in one for free on the channel. Look, I hope this helped you out. I don't even play Blackbeard. Blackbeard really fucks our deck. Truly, it does. It really just spins us up around and around in a circle. But I honestly refuse for the East players calling us idiots because we can't figure out Blackbeard. So hopefully this helped, and yeah, that's all I got. But look, before I go, if you was feeling the vibes, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll go.